Welcome to The Growth Spurt, a weekly AI podcast by the Second Baptist Church of Ann Arbor. Now, today,
Yeah.
we are diving deep into Reverend Freddie Featherstone Jr.'s sermon from last Sunday.
Okay.
Now, the title alone, I Won't Give a Stuck,
Yeah.
had me intrigued.
Interesting title.
And let me tell you, the content definitely lives up to it.
You're not wrong there.
Yeah.
It's a powerful message, especially as we're all thinking about, fresh starts, new beginnings with a new year just around the corner.
For those of you who weren't able to be there in person, Reverend Featherstone kicks things off by talking about that heavy feeling of being stuck that can weigh us down,
Oh, yeah.
especially after a long year.
Exactly. He doesn't shy away from the fact that we all carry burdens, regrets, unfulfilled goals.
Yeah.
It's that feeling of spinning your wheels, going through the motions without really getting anywhere.
And he uses this really relatable analogy about hitting a patch of ice and feeling your car skid, that sudden loss of control.
Oh, wow.
You know that feeling, right?
Absolutely.
And it's that same feeling of being stuck that Reverend Featherstone connects to a passage in Hebrews 12:1-3, which talks about perseverance in the face of challenges. And this is where it gets really interesting. He brings in the historical context of the book of Hebrews, which was written to early Jewish Christians who were facing their own kind of stuckness.
Right. Think about it. They were caught between their Jewish heritage and their newfound faith in Jesus.
Right.
They were literally navigating uncharted territory, trying to reconcile these two seemingly disparate parts of their lives.
So what Reverend Featherstone does so brilliantly is draw a parallel between their struggle and our modern-day experiences of feeling stuck. He's saying, hey, if those early Christians felt this way, even while witnessing miracles, it's totally normal for us to feel stuck sometimes too.
It's such a validating message, right? He's normalizing the struggle, letting us know that we're not alone in feeling this way.
Right. But he doesn't leave us wallowing in that feeling.
Okay.
He gives us a way out.
Right.
And that's where the three key takeaways of the sermon come in. Reflect without restraints, remain with resolve, and remember that we are resilient.
I love how he frames those points. They're action-oriented, empowering.
Yeah?
It's not just about acknowledging the feeling of being stuck.
Right.
It's about taking steps to overcome it.
Let's start with reflect without restraints. Sounds like a bit of a paradox.
Yeah.
How can we reflect without holding back, but not get trapped by the past?
That's the key, isn't it?
Right.
He encourages us to honestly look back at the past year,
Okay.
but not let those reflections become our prison.
Right.
He's saying acknowledge the mistakes, learn from them, but don't get bogged down by guilt or regret.
It's about recognizing that those experiences, even the tough ones, have shaped us, but they don't define us.
Exactly. And I think for a lot of people, especially as we approach a new year, there's a tendency to dwell on what we didn't accomplish, the goals we didn't reach. Reverend Featherstone is challenging us to release those burdens and move forward with a clean slate.
So we reflect, we learn, we let go, and then remain with resolve. What does that look like in practice?
Well, he uses the example of Jesus as our model for resilience. He reminds us that Jesus faced incredible opposition and hardship, yet he never wavered in his purpose.
This ties into that idea of sticking to Jesus that he emphasizes throughout the sermon.
It does. Sticking to Jesus isn't just a catchy phrase. It's about clinging to that unshakable faith even when things get tough. It's about remembering that we're not in this alone.
So remain with resolve is about staying the course,
Mm-hmm.
keeping our eyes fixed on Jesus and drawing strength from him.
Yes, and it also involves taking concrete action. He talks about having those difficult conversations we've been putting off, mending broken relationships, and stepping up to do the hard work of spiritual growth.
It's about moving from reflection to action, from acknowledging our shortcomings to actually doing something about them.
It's about embracing that discomfort that comes with growth and recognizing that those challenges are ultimately opportunities for us to become stronger, more resilient versions of ourselves.
I like how you put that opportunities for growth. It's not about seeking out suffering, but recognizing that even in the midst of difficult circumstances, there's potential for transformation.
And that transformation is powered by the Holy Spirit, which brings us to the third point. Remember that we are resilient.
This is where Reverend Featherstone really dives into the theological underpinnings of resilience. He contrasts the Old and New Covenants, highlighting the freedom and grace offered through Christ.
Right. He reminds us that under the Old Covenant, forgiveness had to be earned through sacrifices. But with the New Covenant, through Christ's sacrifice, we receive forgiveness as a free gift.
And that changes everything, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It shifts our focus from trying to earn God's favor to resting in the assurance that we're already loved and accepted just as we are.
Absolutely. And it's from that place of acceptance and belonging that our true resilience flows. It's knowing that no matter what we've done, no matter how many times we've messed up, we're still God's beloved children and He is always with us.
And that's such a powerful message for anyone who's feeling stuck, who's struggling with guilt or shame. It's a reminder that we don't have to carry those burdens alone. We can lay them at the feet of Jesus and receive His grace and forgiveness.
It's about recognizing that our resilience is not something we have to muster up on our own. It's a gift from God freely given to all who believe. And it's that understanding of God's grace that helps us move from a place of feeling stuck to a place of embracing what Reverend Featherstone calls God's better.
You know, when he started talking about God's better, I immediately thought of that analogy he used about how once you've experienced a 5-star hotel, Motel 6 just doesn't cut it anymore.
Oh, it's such a brilliant analogy, right?
Yeah.
It speaks to that idea that once we've tasted the fullness of God's blessings,
Right.
we can't settle for anything less.
So it's not just about letting go of the negative. It's about actively pursuing something better, something more aligned with God's plan for our lives.
Exactly. And it's important to note that God's better isn't necessarily about material possessions or worldly success. It's about a deeper level of satisfaction and fulfillment that comes from aligning our hearts and minds with God's will.
It's about experiencing that joy unspeakable, that he talked about, the kind of joy that transcends circumstances and sustains us through trials.
And that's what I find so empowering about this message. It's not about ignoring the difficulties of life.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that even in the midst of those challenges, God's grace is sufficient and His joy is available to us.
It's about shifting our perspective from feeling like a victim of our circumstances to seeing ourselves as victors empowered by Christ to overcome any obstacle.
And that's why He so powerfully declares resilience over everyone listening, over their households, their families, their endeavors. It's a reminder that we are not alone in this fight. We have the power of God working within us, and we have the support of our church community to help us stay strong.
He doesn't just preach resilience, he imparts it. You can feel the energy in the room shift when he makes those declarations. It's like he's breathing life and strength into everyone present.
And I think that's what makes this sermon so impactful. It's not just a collection of abstract theological concepts. It's a tangible experience of God's grace and power.
So as we head into 2025, how do we take these 3 points? Reflect without restraints, remain with resolve, and remember that we are resilient and actually live them out.
Yeah.
What does that look like in our everyday lives?
Well, for starters, it requires a conscious shift in our thinking.
Okay.
We need to view the new year not just as a chance to set resolutions, but as an opportunity to deepen our relationship with God and align our lives with His purpose.
It's about moving beyond those surface level changes and embracing a deeper transformation that starts from within.
And that transformation begins with a daily practice of connecting with God.
Yeah.
Whether it's through prayer, Bible study, meditation, or simply spending time in nature, it's about creating space in our lives to listen to His voice and be guided by His wisdom.
It's about intentionally choosing to focus on God's presence and promises, rather than getting caught up in the anxieties and distractions of the world.
And that's where those 3 points come into play. When we reflect without restraints, we're able to let go of the past and embrace the freedom of forgiveness. When we remain with resolve, we're able to stand firm in our faith, even when facing opposition. And when we remember that we are resilient, we tap into the strength and courage that God has placed within us.
So it's a continuous cycle of letting go of what's holding us back, clinging to our faith, and drawing strength from God to move forward.
Exactly. And as we do this, we'll find ourselves increasingly able to not give us stuck and experience the abundant life that God has promised.
Reverend Featherstone ends the sermon with a powerful call to action. Stick to Jesus.
Yes.
It's simple yet profound.
It's a reminder that Jesus is our anchor, our guide, our source of strength and inspiration. He's the one who empowers us to overcome any obstacle and live a life of purpose and victory.
And he assures us that in Christ we've already won the victory. So no matter what challenges we face in 2025, we can face them with confidence, knowing that God is with us every step of the way.
And that, I think, is the most encouraging message we could possibly receive as we stand on the threshold of a new year.
It really is. And I think for anyone listening who's feeling that weight of being stuck, whether it's in their career relationships or just that overall sense of stagnation, Reverend Featherstone's message is a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, It is. He doesn't offer any empty platitudes or quick fixes. Instead, he provides a roadmap rooted in faith action and the unwavering belief in our own God-given resilience.
And that's what I appreciate most about his sermons. They always leave you feeling equipped, not just emotionally encouraged, but with practical tools to apply to your life.
Absolutely. Remember how he even got specific about what to look for in a partner?
Oh, yeah.
He didn't shy away from addressing those real-life issues that so many people face.
Yes. He talked about looking for someone who will elevate you, someone who shares your faith and values. It was such a grounded, practical addition to the broader message of resilience and seeking God's better.
And that's the beauty of it, isn't it? This idea of sticking to Jesus, embracing his better. It's not just some vague spiritual concept. It has real-world implications for how we live our lives, who we choose to spend our time with, and the goals we set for ourselves.
It's about recognizing that our faith isn't something we compartmentalize.
Right.
It permeates every aspect of our being.
Exactly. And that's why his final words resonated so deeply.
Yeah.
He didn't just tell us to have a happy new year. He urged us to stick to Jesus, to make him our anchor as we navigate the uncharted waters of the year ahead.
You know, as we wrap up this deep dive, what strikes me most is the simplicity and power of those 3 points. Reflect without restraints, remain with resolve, and remember that you are resilient.
It's a framework for living, isn't it? A reminder that no matter what challenges we face, we have the tools and resources within us to overcome them.
And it all starts with that decision, that choice to stick to Jesus, to trust in his guidance, and to embrace the fullness of life that he offers.
So for anyone listening who's feeling stuck, who's longing for something more, remember this. You are loved, you are chosen, and you are resilient. You have everything you need to break free from those limitations and step into the abundant life that God has planned for you.
So as we enter 2025, let's carry Reverend Featherstone's message in our hearts. Let's reflect without restraints, remain with resolve, and remember that we are resilient. And above all, let's stick to Jesus.
Because in him, we've already won the victory.
Go in peace, be blessed, and may the joy of Jesus be yours. We'll see you next week.